Today we're going to talk about percent problems. We're going to go through a few examples on how we work with percent. So let's take a look. All right, first example says to convert 0.5% to a decimal. Okay, the word percent means per 100. So we're dealing with hundreds each time. In this case, if I'm going from a percent to a decimal, I'm going to divide by 100. So if we're going from a percent to decimal, we're going to divide by 100. So we take the number 0.5 and divide it by 100. And again, you can use a calculator to help you out. In this case, dividing this by 100, we get 0.005. When working with hundreds, if you do enough of these problems, you start to see a pattern. So in this case, we realize, oh, I just moved the decimal 2 spaces over to the right. So, to the left rather. So we go 1, 2, here's where my decimal is. So we have 0.005. Either way, like I said, calculator works just as well. Next example, we want to convert 1.05 to a percent. So the last one, we were going from a percent to a decimal, we divided. In this case, we're going from a decimal to a percent, so we multiply by 100. So 1.05 times 100. Again, calculator works well, but this becomes 105%. The moving the decimal trick works the same way. This time we move to the right 2 spaces, 1, 2. So we get 105.0 if you'd like that, or just 105%. Next example, we want to convert 3/8 to a percent. So this one takes a couple of steps. 3/8 can be, remember, fractions can be converted into decimals. It's just a different way to express them. So if we have the number 3/8, we need to divide that. 3 divided by 8. So remember, just because it looks like a fraction, it also means to divide. And again, you can use a calculator, totally fine. You can also do this longhand if you like. Do long division just to give yourself some practice. Either way is totally fine. So first, converting this to a decimal, we divided, really, 3 divided by 8. And we get 0.375. Now we know how to convert a decimal to a percent. We multiply that by 100. So 0.375 times 100 means I'm moving the decimal point 2 spaces over to the right, 1, 2. So it's 37.5, and then add the percent sign. There are percent type problems that we want to solve. So let's look at an example of this. It says 35% of 70 is blank. So we want to know what the percentage of that number is. So the way to do that is we have to take our percent and change it back to a decimal. So 35% means we're dividing by 100. Move the decimal place 2 spaces to the left, so we get 0.35. And the word of means we're multiplying, so times 70. We can multiply those by hand or use your calculator, up to you. All right, and multiplying those, we get 24.5 or 24.50. And that's our answer. Last example. Enrollment in a photography class increased from 25 to 35 students. What was the percent of increase? So the enrollment, let me just write that here and paraphrase it. Enrollment went from 25 to 35 students. What was the percent increase? Okay, so how we figure this one out is it's super easy. We need to figure out the difference from where it went, so the actual increase. So to find the difference means we subtract those and we divide it by the original amount where it started. So in this case, we want to subtract 35 minus 25. And then we're going to divide it by the original. So where did it start? It started at 25. Okay, so 35 minus 25 is 10. And we're going to divide 10 divided by 25. So again, here's our fraction. That also means divide. We can use a calculator. And when we divide, we get 0.4 or 0.40. And then we want, it says percent increase, so we need to change that to a percentage. So we're going to multiply it by 100 or move the decimal place 2 spaces to the right. And we get 40%. So the percent increase was 40% in the enrollment. That's it for this video. As you do the lesson, if you have any questions, make sure to ask your teacher. Have a great day.